Hi, I'm Raylyn Worcester, and this is Spreading the Word. That's word with a capital W, as in the written word, the Bible, and the Word of God made flesh, Jesus Christ. So I am about to finish up Without Faith for you. This is part 21, and it'll be the final part of this novel. I hope you've been enjoying the story so far, and I know you're anxious to see how it ends. Well, when we left off, there was an unexpected rescue at Camp Barkley, and Rob and Gloria arrived at Camp Bouse. They had just witnessed what's going on there, and now we are going to see how all the rest plays out. So get something to drink, get comfortable. We are about to finish up Without Faith, part 21. Arizona. As soon as the beheadings were completed, the crowd dispersed and a guard came by and picked up the heads, putting them in a basket. Gloria turned to Rob and asked him, "Are you all right?" He was shaking, she noticed, but he didn't look frightened. He nodded, not trusting himself to speak. Gloria's eyes scanned the crowd. Imelda was here. She had started the singing. Gloria wanted to find her. She started walking in the direction of the voice she'd heard, with Rob trailing behind her, when a voice at her elbow said, "Miss Vincent, welcome. Did you enjoy the show?" "Director Billings," Gloria acknowledged coolly, turning to face him so his face was framed by her camera's eye. "I didn't come to see the show, as you so eloquently put it. I came to see how you are running this camp. Is everything in this camp happening in accordance with your wishes and under your direction?" she asked. The camp director recognized the question as the trap it was. If he said yes, she would nail him for approving of the singing during the executions. If she said no, she would accuse him of not being able to run his camp properly. Either way, he was screwed. He chose not to answer. "Perhaps I can show you around, then we can chat in my office," he suggested. Gloria nodded her consent. She would let him sweat it out a bit. He led her around the grounds, stopping first at the holding cell. "Here we put detainees who arrive after the sleeping quarters have been locked for the night or before it's been opened. We also had a guard who got saved," he said, making air quotes with his hands and rolling his eyes, "who spent a week in here before I had him beheaded as a fervent." "Have you had any detainees who recanted their faith in Christ?" Rob wanted to know. "Only a handful," the director admitted. "And what was done with them?" Gloria demanded. "They were put in this holding cell until everyone was locked away for the night. Then they were beheaded anyway," he chuckled. Gloria was nauseated by the man. He made her skin crawl. Then he led them to the sleeping quarters. It was a large metal building that reminded Gloria of an enclosed airplane hangar with no windows. The director unlocked the door and a horrible stench wafted out of the empty building. She could only imagine what it smelled like when everyone here was packed inside. "Everyone sleeps here?" she asked. The director nodded. "There are only about 160,000 left now," he said. "We've had over twice that many in here at our peak," he boasted. He relocked the door and led them to the food shack. "This window is open once a day for an hour. Each person gets 1 cup of gruel and a half cup of water." "How do all the detainees get fed in 1 hour?" Rob asked. "They don't," the director said with a smile. The final stop on the tour was the latrine pit. Rob cried out in horror when he saw the heads on the spikes surrounding it. He couldn't have stopped the cry from escaping if he had tried. "Looks like your young protege is a little green," the director said to Gloria with a sneer. "He hasn't been at this as long as we have," Gloria agreed. "He will adjust." "Stay here and babysit, Billings," she ordered. "I want a closer look." Gloria was just as repulsed and horrified as Rob, but the Lord had given her a forehead of flint for this mission that enabled her to do what needed done. She felt she owed it to each person who lost their life to the guillotine to have it documented. She walked around the entire pit, stopping and facing the heads on the spikes every so often, making sure that each one of them was captured for posterity. "That woman has ice water in her veins," Director Billings thought as he watched Gloria getting a closer look at the heads of the victims. "Sure wouldn't want to cross her." When Gloria returned, he said, "Shall we go to my office? It's air-conditioned." "Lead the way," she said. He led them to a large building in the farthest part of the camp from the front gate. He unlocked the entrance and said, "All the staff have keys to this door." They entered a small foyer which led to a hallway, off which were half a dozen doors. The entire building was air-conditioned, Gloria noticed immediately. It was at least 40 degrees cooler in here than it was outside. "This door leads to staff sleeping quarters," the director said, continuing his tour. "This one leads to a staff cafeteria. We could stop in there if you'd like something to eat. It is already after 1. Rob shook his head, and Gloria said, "I don't have time to waste on lunch. Carry on." "This is a staff rec room, pool tables, ping pong, a TV, books, chairs, and the like." "And these 2 doors?" Gloria asked as they neared the end of the hallway. The doors in question were both marked private and obviously led to rooms of different size. "The larger room is my office. The smaller is the general's," he explained. Gloria raised an eyebrow. "Oh? And why is that?" she demanded. The director cleared his throat uncomfortably and said, "The general has never been here. Doesn't have the stomach for the operations here. I'm here all day, every day. I need the room." He unlocked the door to the larger room and led them into a spacious office. "Where are the keys to my office?" she asked. He opened his top desk drawer, withdrew a single key, and handed it to Gloria. "Master key," he said, "opens every door on the property." "Including your office?" she asked. His face turned red. He nodded. Gloria handed the key to Rob. "Please wait in my office, Rob. I'd like to have a private chat with the director in his." "Yes, ma'am," Rob replied, and left the room. Gloria locked the door behind him. She turned to the director, who had seated himself behind his desk. "I don't think so," Gloria said, motioning to one of the chairs facing the desk. "Sit there. Would you preside over the general as if he were a flunky called into your office?" The director audibly gulped. No, ma'am," he stuttered. "I am the general when I am here. Do you understand? I have the authority to treat you any way I wish." She didn't directly threaten him with the guillotines, as she had promised she would no longer do, but she was sure he got the intended message. Seated in the director's comfy office chair while he squirmed in a hard-backed, armless one, Gloria looked down at him and asked, "Are you aware of the containee I had sent here from Fort Benjamin Harrison?" The director nodded. Per the general's instructions, she's not been selected for execution prior to your arrival. Good. I want her found and taken to my office first thing in the morning. I wish to interrogate her before I watch her execution on the last day of my visit here. Last day? The director asked. I have much to attend to here for the general. I want to be able to enjoy watching her suffer. I want it to be the last thing I see here, so I can relish it after I leave. Is that all right with you? Yes, ma'am. Do you know the traitor's name? It would make locating her among the others a lot easier, he said. Esmeralda? No, wait. It was Imelda, I think. Yes, Imelda. 9 a.m. in your office, okay? Perfect, Gloria said. And director? Yes? You never answered my question. Is everything happening at this camp done with your approval and according to your wishes? He squirmed in his seat, his palms beginning to sweat. You don't have to answer, she said with an evil-sounding laugh. We both know the answer, don't we? Gloria got up, walked around the desk, and unlocked the door. She left the office without another word. She did, however, notice the puddle forming just beneath the director's chair as she passed by. Gloria found Rob seated in a chair facing the desk in the general's office. His head was on his arms, his eyes closed. He didn't move when Gloria had entered, so she assumed he was sleeping. She walked over to the filing cabinet and quietly opened one door after another. They were all empty. The general obviously didn't use this office. If there were any records here, she would find them in the director's office. Suddenly wearied by the day's events and just everything she'd dealt with since taking this position, Gloria couldn't wait to leave. She gently shook Rob's shoulder until he lifted his head. Come on, Rob, she said. Let's go home. They heard taps sound as they exited the building and saw the masses headed toward the platform. Another execution was getting ready to begin. Gloria and Rob kept their heads down and walked as briskly as they could against the flow through the crowds and out the gate to the safety of the staff car. No one spoke on the ride home. When they arrived at the mobile home, Anna greeted them with a smile, eager to share her day. Gloria just couldn't do it. Later, Anna, she said as kindly as she could, and both she and Rob disappeared into their rooms. Anna knew something was dreadfully wrong. She spent her evening praying. Washington, D.C. It was 6:15, and Christian was just about to shut down the computer and go help his wife close up the coffee shop when the next video clip popped up onto the screen. He felt excited and irritated at the same time. Well, he had to watch it. He pressed the play button. A road sign for US 277 South came up on the screen. Then the highway passing by as if the video was being shot from a vehicle through the windshield. There was a shot of a trip odometer on the dash of a car showing 12 miles and then a street sign that said Braun Road. Next, there was a waist-high barbed wire fence with a cattle gate beneath a 14-foot wrought iron arch that said Camp Barkley, with a voiceover of two female voices that said, I didn't notice any guards or security or even secure fencing around the entrance. Am I missing something? There are none. There is no need. Everyone in the area knows this property is closed down, empty. They don't bother to drive all the way out here. Everyone brought to Camp Barkley is either very old or in poor health or both. Everything on this property is very spread out. The sheer size of the place discourages anyone from going too far. This complex is 65,000 acres. That's 101.4 miles. The next scene was a shot of a property map, again with a voiceover of the same two voices from the previous scene that said, "All those buildings we saw, mostly closed facades. Containees are all kept either in the Contagion building or the elderly dormitories." Now a building marked Contagion came up upon the screen. A door was opened and a room packed full of beds with people coughing up blood, wheezing, and in the throes of delirium was shown, followed by a person in a hazmat suit. Then 3 other buildings labeled elderly dormitories were shown. Inside these were beds full of elderly people who all appeared to be sleeping. There was one final audio clip with a woman's voice saying, "We have about 50 staff on property at any given time, almost double that on train days." The screen went blank except for a message that said, "More to come." Then the clip ended. Christian was so excited. This camp had no security and only about 100 staff working there. There were over 1,000 resistors readying to move upon that camp. They only needed intel on one more camp. They were going to do this. Christian moved the clip to the evidence page and pushed the button that would allow all the underground to view it. Then he shut down the computer, locked up the secret room, and walked into the coffee shop. Bridget had just turned the sign on the door around to read closed. "How would you like to go out to dinner tonight?" he said, wrapping his arms around his wife. "I'd love it. Are we celebrating?" "Yes," Christian said. "I think we are." Arizona. Anna had breakfast made when Rob and Gloria emerged from their rooms. She had known they'd had a rough day the previous day, and she just wanted to do what she could to help. "Smells delicious," Gloria said with a smile. Rob sat at the table and said, "And I'm starved. I didn't eat supper last night." Anna set a plate of homemade biscuits and sausage gravy in front of each and filled Gloria's coffee cup. She grabbed the chocolate milk out of the fridge and poured a glass for Rob. "Aren't you eating?" Gloria asked Anna after she had blessed the food and taken a bite. "I've put on 5 pounds already," Anna said, patting her concave stomach. "Well, you could use another 20, Gloria said, not unkindly. "Please come join us." Anna fixed another plate half the size of theirs and sat down. Gloria said, "I'm so sorry about yesterday, Anna. Please tell us about your day." She shared that she had walked to the clubhouse and picked out a couple of intriguing novels to borrow, then stayed for a Mexican train dominoes tournament that was starting. She didn't win, but she had a great time. She walked around the grounds, smelling the flowers and watching the birds. "I just relaxed and did a whole lot of nothing," she said. "It was heavenly. And your day?" Gloria shook her head. "We will not be at liberty to share anything about our days at this camp," she said. "I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be rude. That's just how it has to be. And we won't always come home in a good mood. Just know that we love you and are just getting through our days here the best we can." "Then I will make your off hours as pleasant and comfortable as I can," she said. They thanked her and left the dirty dishes as they headed off to work. Anna didn't mind at all. While Gloria and Rob were eating breakfast, Director Billings asked one of his guards to find the protected containee named Imelda. John Ravenhill unlocked the door of the sleeping quarters and hollered her name until a single woman stood and walked toward him. "Come with me," he said. He placed her in handcuffs, but deliberately left them untightened as he walked her to the far corner of the camp. "May I ask where we're going?" Imelda asked. The Raven replied, "You are being taken to the office of the personal liaison to the Supreme General." "Gloria is here," Imelda thought happily, excited to see her friend again. "May I stop at the latrine pit first?" John nodded his consent. At the pits, he kept his back to Imelda as she voided her bladder. Then they continued on to the staff building. Imelda and John waited in the foyer of the staff building for Gloria to arrive. When she did not make eye contact with Imelda, but said to the guard, "Please bring her into my office, hand me the key to the cuffs, and leave her with me." "Yes, ma'am," he replied. Once Imelda was seated at Gloria's desk, still handcuffed, and the guard had left, Gloria came around and undid the cuffs. She wrapped Imelda in her arms and held on like she would never let go. "How are you doing? Are you okay? Has it been awful?" "Oh, God, I am so glad to see you," Gloria said. Imelda laughed for the first time since arriving at Camp Bouse. The women sat for an hour catching up. Gloria had sent Rob to spend some time in the staff quarters and rec room to see what he could find out about the camp from the guards. "I'm so proud of what you've accomplished here," Gloria told Imelda. "I could feel the spirit amongst the crowd when you started singing. What a sight to see thousands of hands lifted in the air," she exclaimed. Imelda told her about the miracle of the guillotines all breaking at the same time and Jack's life being spared. She told of the visions each had seen and how they'd come to pass. As horrible as Camp Bouse was, it was not a God-forsaken place, Gloria realized. Gloria quickly shared her mission with Imelda and told her that the resistance would be coming to free them. Her one regret was that it hadn't happened before her friends from Mustard Seed Faith had lost their lives. Imelda reminded her that her friends were in a much better place. Both women felt better than they had in a long time. They hugged once more, then Gloria replaced the cuffs on Imelda's wrists. She walked her to the staff quarters door and, opening it, said, "Can I get a guard out here, please?" John Ravenhill answered the call, and Gloria handed Imelda off to him with the instructions to return her to the food shack and get her a bowl of gruel before releasing her into the courtyard. It was her fault the containee had missed breakfast, after all. "Yes, ma'am," he said as he led Imelda away. So that's the raven God had sent to feed his people, Gloria thought. She smiled as she thought about the beautiful close-up shot her camera would have gotten when he opened the staff quarters door. Rob had seen Raven leave with the woman containee and knew Gloria would be alone in her office. He headed there now. Entering and sitting, Gloria asked him what he learned. He told her the story of the stuck guillotines, the guard's spontaneous conversion to faith, and subsequent execution. She nodded. She'd heard the same from Imelda. What a sight that must have been. How did the staff respond to that story? Are there any more possible believers among them? Gloria asked. No, they were all pretty vocal about how the guy had gone crazy and how if the guillotines had all been manufactured in one lot, they could all have had a faulty part in them that would go out at the same time, he said, shaking his head in disbelief. Except that guard who took the Cantaney, he kept his head down and didn't say anything the whole time. I don't know about him, Rob said. I do, Gloria thought. Okay, Gloria asked, what else did you discover? That the director is going to be off tomorrow. He has a dental appointment in Parker. Parker was the county seat of La Paz County, about an hour away from the camp. Good, Gloria said. We will spend tomorrow photographing files in his office. Anything else? Rob nodded. That there are executions every hour on the hour, 192 each day. Gloria shook her head sadly. We don't have to watch them, she said. We can stay in my office while we are here. Rob shook his head. Did you feel what I felt when the whole crowd was singing and raising their hands? I got chills. I've never experienced anything like that. I want to feel it again. We can only testify to what we've seen and heard, the Spirit spoke to Gloria. She was outnumbered. They would join the faithful, stand up for Jesus with them, and watch the executions. She glanced at a clock on the wall. Another would be starting in 10 minutes. Let's go then, she said to Rob. She told him about the Holy Spirit as they walked, explaining it was his presence Rob had felt, and he who guided their entire mission. Over the next 2.5 weeks, Rob and Gloria witnessed over 5,000 executions. The unblinking eye of the camera watched it all too. They stood with the faithful as they all stood up for Jesus. 100 miles to the southeast in Buckeye, Arizona, Samuel Adamson was a busy man. He was video chatting with each of his section leaders, nailing down specific plans for each raid and making sure they would be coordinated to happen all at the same time. Washington, D.C. Judge Thurston Moran quickly made his way to his office, entered the room, and locked the door behind him. He had just had a very fruitful conversation that Uncle Sam needed to know about right away. He picked up his phone, keyed in the familiar number, and it was answered on the second ring. Thurston, G-Day is upon us, Sam said in greeting. It is, and I have news for you. Okay, Sam said eagerly, let's have it. I've been in contact with the head of the FCC. If you can put an urgent message out to your anonymous video supplier and ask him to make one comprehensive video showing what happened to those who had been arrested, he will make sure it plays on every phone, smartwatch, computer, and TV in New America all at the same time. Wonderful, Sam replied. I will do it right away. Everything a go on your end? I still haven't figured out what to do about all the armed guards on the premises. We will have the element of surprise, but they will fight back. It could be a bloodbath. That part is handled, Sam said confidently. What? How? Trust me, Sam said. Trust God. Indiana. Trevor had received the last video file from Gloria, all the audio files, all the photographs she'd taken, and her list of friendlies. He had put together the video clip for the last camp, Camp Bouse. He had shown how to get there, the code being punched into the secret door, the guard shacks, the guillotines, and the heads around the latrine pit. He'd used a special technique to blur the faces on those being decapitated and those who already had been. He wanted the underground to see what was being done to their friends and family without anyone having to actually see that it was their loved one it was happening to. He was just about to send the clip when he noticed an urgent message on the site. He paused to read it. The message was addressed to the anonymous video clip supplier. That was him. His eyes grew wide, and so did his smile as he read what the Federal Communications Commission wanted to do. He could see it already. A 2-minute montage showing packed cattle cars, razor-wired fences, indoctrination, the contagion ward, dentist chair, guillotines. It would be his masterpiece, his piece de resistance. He sent the Campbell's clip, then immediately began work on the FCC piece. Across the Nation, G-Day. It was Sunday, July 4th, 2034. It was the Lord's Day, Independence Day, G-Day. Across the nation, alarms were waking up resistors while it was still dark out, and they rose with a sense of urgency and purpose. Each knew where he was supposed to be, when he was supposed to be there, what he was supposed to do. Travel routes had been tested and timed. Now watches and phone clocks were being synchronized. This was the day they'd been waiting for, the day their loved ones would be returned, the day freedom rang. At 5 minutes until 2 in Arizona, 5 minutes until 4 in Texas, Oklahoma, and Minnesota, and 5 minutes until 5 in Indiana, Ohio, and Washington, D.C., between 1,000 and 1,500 resistors waited silently in the shadows outside the facilities they were about to breach. These were not the only ones ready to fight. The Spirit of God had his part to play. The battle belonged to the Lord. As the hour struck, the section coordinators yelled, "Breach!" Locked gates fell open. Armed guards patrolling at this time of morning found their weapons jammed, unable to fire. Resistors holding weapons that worked bound anyone who wasn't a containee or a friendly, whose face had been memorized, with zip ties kept in the multi-pocketed cargo pants each resistor wore on this day. They were then herded to holding cells whose locks had miraculously fallen open. All of this happened with supernatural precision and speed, paving the way for the rescue of the prisoners. In the nation's capital, the former Capitol Police, who were loyal to the cause, burst into the executive residence, waking President and Vice President Naylor, placing them under arrest for treason and war crimes. Russ Naylor was paraded to a holding cell in his boxers, and Jackie in a frilly negligee. At 2:15, 4:15, and 5:15 a.m., a loud sound emitted on every watch, phone, computer, and TV in the nation, waking those still asleep, alerting them that some emergency was taking place. Every eye across the country witnessed Trevor's masterpiece as it played across every screen. The truth of what had taken place in their nation dawned upon every citizen at the same time, and they were either outraged or frightened, depending upon where their loyalties lie. There were no more fence sitters. Everyone was either adamantly for the government and their actions or adamantly against it. After the montage of scenes on the clip, a list of the facility scrolled across the screen, complete with addresses and directions. Militia members who now opposed the government that employed them, ambulances, firefighters, and media crew were all dispatched immediately to whichever facility was nearest to them to aid in or document the rescue of the captives. Former Navy SEALs swam through Island Lake with blow-up life rafts, while Dylan and Shirley each manned pontoons to free those being held at Camp Savage. Before the light of day dawned in each city, every threat was neutralized, and rescue efforts were well underway. Not one person had been killed or even harmed in the raids. Epilogue. 1 year later. It was July 4th, 2035. It was the Lord's Day, Independence Day, both of which had been reestablished under the reign of the 50th President of the United States of America, Samuel Adamson. Uncle Sam had been voted in unanimously in a special election to replace Russ Naylor, who, along with his husband Jackie Naylor, had been convicted of high treason against the United States of America and of war crimes. They had been remanded to ADX Florence in Colorado, the country's only supermax prison that had earned a reputation of a clean version of hell due to its harsh conditions. Others sentenced to join the former president at ADX included General Hsing, those who had performed the torture at Camp Savage, Director Billings, those who had operated the guillotines, and the Supreme General of the Militia of New America. Gloria had gone to visit the Supreme General in his holding cell before his transfer to Colorado. She had approached the bars behind which the general sat with tears in her eyes. "Gloria," the general said in a wounded voice, "it was you responsible for all of this, wasn't it?" She nodded her head. "But I loved you, General, as much as I despised what you were doing. I ached with every act that betrayed you, as much as I rejoiced over the outcome it would produce. I love you still, and my heart is breaking." Tears rolled unhampered down her cheeks. "The housekeeper?" the general asked. "Part of the plan. Sent to encourage the saints at Camp Baus." He shook his head in disbelief. "And Colonel Greenbaugh?" "Got less than he deserved," she replied, steel in her voice. "And me, Gloria? Is there no hope for me?" he asked. "There is always hope, General, as long as there is breath in your body. You will pay for your crimes, and harshly, but you can still find salvation in Jesus Christ. If you will allow it, I would like to write to you in Colorado and tell you all about it." "I'd like that," he said. As she turned to leave, the general called to her one last time. "Gloria!" "Yes, General?" "I'm proud of you." Gloria made her way out of the jail through vision distorted by a steady stream of tears. As time passed, things were put to rights, and the nation began to heal. The camps had all been destroyed. The heads on the spikes at Camp Baus had been returned to their loved ones so they had something to bury and could find closure. Children and teens had been returned to their families. Babies left at hospitals and firehouses in Oklahoma City, located and placed once again in the arms of family members who loved them. All who had been sick and traumatized were getting treatment, compliments of the government who owed them at least that much. President Adamson renamed the country the United States of America. New America no longer existed. He reinstated the Constitution and made sure that it was being strictly adhered to. Freedom of religion was reestablished, churches reopened. Anna proudly wore the new dress to church the first Sunday the padlocks and plywood had been removed. just as she had told Gloria she would. Freedom of speech had been restored. How one referred to any other person was no longer mandated nor criminalized. Citizens once again had the right to bear arms. The universal basic income and freedom cards had been abolished. There was no longer a federal currency. Goods and services could be bought with dollars, Bitcoin, barter, or labor, whatever the parties involved agreed upon. All the vehicles liberated and used by the resistance were sold to families at reasonable prices, and gas stations were operating again. The nation would never be what it once was. It would be something better. President Adamson determined it. It would take time and work. It would take faith. He would not rest until his country was once again one nation under God. A great cloud of witnesses looked down upon the scene below from their spot in heaven. They marveled at all that had been accomplished and could not have been accomplished without faith. Acknowledgements. I would like to thank my brother Keith Gilman for allowing me to bounce ideas off of him, for his valuable insight and the research he provided for this book. Thanks also to Carrie Watson, my good friend who hounded me to write a novel when I adamantly argued that it wasn't the kind of writing I do. Thanks to my mom, Joy Martin, for her unwavering support of all I attempt to do. And last and most importantly, thank you to my husband, Brian Worcester, who supports everything I do, even when that means hours spent fending for himself while I was lost in my story. And thanks be to God, who gave me the words to write and the ability to put them on paper. I couldn't have done this without any of you. Love, Raylan. Now, you are going to want to stay tuned and find the next video in which I read the sequel and then the trumpet. For details of the raids and to see what happened to Gloria, Imelda, Colonel Greenbaugh, the General, Uncle Sam, and all your other favorite characters. The best part is yet to come in the sequel and then the trumpet, coming up soon. Please be sure to share Without Faith with your friends and family. I don't believe it's just a story. I believe it's a warning. I believe it's important and that it needs to be shared. If you will please do that, and also remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel, you can help me spread the word. Thank you, and God bless you.